A question has been going around in the fitness industry for a while, whether it is better for muscle growth to use machines, cables, and specifically designed equipment, or free weights, barbells, dumbbells, and weighted or unweighted calisthenics. The debate, however, has been saturated with an unhealthy dose of silliness, half-truths, generalizations, such as free weights build real-world strength. Free weights stimulate testosterone, and machines help you isolate the muscle. In this video, we will look into what method is the best for muscle growth, why, and what you can do in order to grow the most muscle. There will be timestamps for you to skip to the part you like. The question is always framed as, which is better, machines or free weights? This question is flawed, and before you click off the video, it is important to remember how framing impacts your training and what exercises you choose. Now, if you're asking this question, you probably don't have a dog in the fight, but the question is rigged always to the side of the machines. Machines is a term that could refer to many things, from cables to specific implements, pin-loaded machines, plate-loaded machines. With free weights, there aren't many options as there are for machines. Okay, let's take, for example, a movement pattern like a flat horizontal press. On the free weight side, you have barbell bench press, as well as dumbbell bench press. But on the machine side, you have chest press, right? But there are so many types of chest press, from hammer strength, Panada, and all those things. And some of these chest presses have benefits that trump their free weight cousins. In a sense, machines can be kind of used as a cop-out because free weight movements, they're always static. From their inception, from their creation, they have never changed, and they will never change because the movement itself is already created, so there's no need to change anything. If the resistance curve, or the part where the exercise is the hardest, is at a certain point, it will always stay at that point. Machines are constantly evolving and have no set definition. So you, like with a barbell bench press, you already know what you're talking about, but with a chest press, there could be so many different, as I previously stated, different brands and stuff like that, and you don't even know if it's like a hammer strength chest press or like a supine chest press. You don't know which one, if you just say chest press. And I would argue, even though individual machines can be criticized for having something like an inferior resistance curve or only going up to a certain weight, etc., in which free weights will come out on top because, of course, these are their machines are specifically designed for a certain intent. Free weights still beat them. An individual who's on the side of machine training might bring up something of superior quality, like a Prime machine or an Atlantis machine. And after hearing this, you might think there is no way that machines could win. However, this ambiguity of what exactly what machine training is also its downfall. For example, let's go back to flat horizontal presses. One of the main selling points of machines is their superior stability in comparison to free weights. However, this is not true for all machines. The cable press, for example, is pretty unstable. I mean, if you have to set it up, you have to kind of twist your body and stuff like that. Even if you have a bench, the setup is very difficult. Like even a dumbbell bench press, I would say, is arguably just more stable than that, because you have the cable just pulling all here and there. In fact, the flaw of instability comes hand in hand with the ability to have freedom of movement, which is one of the benefits of cable training. So, in conclusion, we can't universally apply stability to machines. And because not all machines are stable, and cable training is a pretty big part of machine training. However, that's one of the benefits of why it is used, because cables allow you to have freedom of movement, which certain static machines don't really allow you to have, like a chest press. However, I will argue that most machines do have an element of stability towards them. There are a couple of myths surrounding the debate. One of them that I could think of off the top of my head is that machines don't build real-world strength, which I find so laughable. It's just, it's so funny. It's half true. Real-world strength is basically what they mean, what individuals refer to as just outside of the gym strength. And some individuals will say free weights build real-world strength because they have that element of stability to them. And to an extent, that is true. However, if you were to want to get stronger at something in the real world, you'd probably do more of it. If you wanted to, let's say, carry all the groceries for mom, then you'd probably start training with specific implements close, or directly using those the thing that you want to get stronger at, so you get stronger at it. However, not a lot of things in the real world are barbell shaped. If you are carrying something, you'll probably Zercher carry it in like the crooks of your elbow, or you maybe just grip it and it might be a bag, it might be a very heavy bag that kind of pulls down on the outside of your fingers and your hands. So it's not barbell shaped. A barbell is shaped specifically so you can exert the most amount of force into it without any external factors. Also, I would like to add in another thing is that a bigger muscle is most likely a stronger muscle. Let's make this clear. Strength and muscle size are not two entirely separate entities, separate qualities that you have to train separately. If you are going to train to get stronger, you will most likely have to get bigger, and if you're going to get bigger, you're most likely going to have to get stronger. Now, however, I won't say that obviously you have to do bench, squat, and deadlift, because sometimes if you train for specific things, because realistically, strength is just strength in the way most people apply it is just specificity, which is doing a specific thing and then honing it, and but always a bigger muscle in isolation, if you put it in a lab and you stretched it out and you had it contract in comparison to a smaller muscle, it's probably going to be stronger. Another myth is that free weights stimulate more testosterone. This is silly. This is very silly. Before you even need to understand why it's silly, let me just explain that this is most likely not just a increase in testosterone, as in a permanent increase due to lifestyle changes, but rather a transient one. Well, you might have a transient increase in testosterone after you work out or whatever. Transient basically means it's temporary, it's not going to stay, and it's not like a boost in testosterone from lifestyle improvements like going to sleep earlier and stuff like that. This myth was from a study in which it was shown after performing free weight exercises, testosterone levels were increased. I would also like to argue that a testosterone boost could come from the association of free weight movements being more masculine, and thus, after the participants doing them, they had a mental boost, which thus resulted in a boost in testosterone. However, this is just an assumption, and I will just say this, that free weights and machines are not different. Both are methods in which you are supplying tension to the muscle. And the last half myth is that machines allow you to isolate a muscle, which I hear in a lot of videos. This is half true in the sense that you get a more targeted stimulus in the prime mover of the exercise. Prime mover means muscle primarily worked and primarily working in the exercise, for example, chest and bench press. Some individuals have issues on things like the squat, in which they good morning the weight, which is basically meaning they get their butt and their lower back so involved that it just becomes a hip hinge like a deadlift, and machines like the hack squat can fix this issue. However, I think it's incorrect to say that it's incorrect to isolate a muscle on a compound always. When you program a compound, even if it's a machine compound, like even though you want to isolate, you want to target the prime movers, you still want to get a pretty good stimulus for those supporting muscle groups. Like, let's say you're doing a machine press, you probably want to get some stimulus for the shoulders and triceps. And I think maybe sometimes I feel like individuals definitely get caught in the trap of trying to optimize form and do all these things to hit the chest more on the bench press and hit it so much that every other muscle group in the compound gets even less and less stimulus until they're starved so much that you have to put isolation work, like a ton of isolation work, just to compensate. And I mean, I don't think that's necessary. I think that's just, not only is that probably going to result in maybe injury because you might not, because that's, if you're trying to like isolate so much, you might not. This is from a little bit of experience, anecdote, but if you try to isolate so much, it's a little counterintuitive and probably not how the body is supposed to work, especially in a compound movement. And I would also argue, other than, of course, because compounds, with compounds, you're trying to maximize training economy, basically your budget in terms of energy and what you dedicate that energy towards in your training. I also argue free weight isolations do a good job as well. They've been doing a good job for a very long time, and obviously machines have the advantage of optimizing conditions in a movement that will recruit a certain muscle group, such as having your butt be supported by a pad on the hack squat, so that your knees push out more, thus recruiting more quads. And now, okay, let's move on to the pros and the cons of each method of training. Alright, free weights. Accessible and cheaper than machines. Calisthenics is free. It's free, guys. As long as you have functional arms and legs, as well as a floor, hopefully. I mean, I hope you're not like falling from the sky, like just crashing down and then just incinerating yourself, burning yourself up. I really hope that's not happening to you right now while you're watching this video. I mean, maybe you dropped down the toilet after watching this video, so I mean, hopefully you don't. But you can do it if you have functional arms and legs and a floor. You could, and maybe a dip bar, pull-up bar. You could do that. You could find that in a park. You could go to a kid's park and bang out some pull-ups and some dips. But you're probably gonna get looked at, and you're probably gonna be told to leave. So probably don't do that. Non-Alibaba machines will probably cost you an arm and a leg. Even if you do have a gym membership, chances are you're probably gonna have access to mid-quality machines, which is still good. I mean, if you have access to resources, you should use them. Number 2, stable enough, free enough. Perfect is the enemy of good. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. I can't believe I messed up that line. And if you're bummed out that your gym only has good free weight options, use the free weight options. Most time-tested options are good enough in terms of stability and require an individual to invest some time in them in order to get the stability benefits, such as weighted dips, which start to become even more stable the more weight you add. To add on, instability on free weight movements is often over-exaggerated. The difference between a barbell squat and a hack squat is not the same as comparing a barbell squat to a Bosu ball squat. It simply isn't. And this leads us to number 3. Oftentimes more loadable. Most gyms, to my knowledge, and probably just objectively, have a lot of pin-loaded machines. Now, while these are good, they go up only to a certain weight capacity, and it's often less than a plate-loaded machine. So if you have something like, let's say, like a nice little Life Fitness chest press, it's probably only going to go up to like 250 pounds. And you know, if you have a hammer strength plate loaded machine, it'll probably go up to more than that. It'll probably go up to the 400s. I don't know, but you can. The thing is that you might have to add a gym pin to them, and that might be a little risky considering that sometimes the cables snap, and you don't want to get your gym membership canceled. And if I were to want to be able to progressively overload, I'd probably have to choose, if I were to go to a mediocre gym, a free weight option, because quite frankly a lot of the machine options for the most part don't have that much load capacity, and it sucks sometimes. And number 4, they fit many builds. Machines for the most part accommodate a lot of people. However, there are certain people who can't use machines due to the machines putting them in uncomfortable positions, or because they can't fit in the machine or use the machine. For example, people who are too short, too tall, people who have arms that are too long or short, or whatever. But however, with free weights, there are a ton of ways to perform it. With the bench press, for the most part, unless you probably have like scoliosis, you'll like natural hypertrophy, you'll probably be able to find your own way to press, to do like bench press or something like that, because other than the fact that there are just tons of resources online and a crazy amount of styles in which you can bench. You can bench with the arch, you can bench with whatever, you can bench flared out, whatever's comfortable for you, you know. But with a machine, you probably have a set path, and that's going to be very restrictive on some people. Okay, let's go on to the cons. First one, instability. Okay, why did I mention this after I said, they're stable enough? That's true. However, in a relative sense, compared to machines, they are unstable, and some people just don't want to deal with that. And in some cases, it can be more advantageous to use machines. If you have an imbalance on one side, it's probably better if you do a unilateral machine press compared to a unilateral dumbbell press, which is probably not good, and you might tip over to one side. Don't do it. You might, if you do it, don't sue me. I told you not to do it, so yeah. And there are some points where instability can make it harder for you to push hard. Funnily enough. Which leads me to my other point. Number 2. Certain machines are better than their free weight counterparts. Aside from stability, having a better resistance curve or moment where the exercise is hardest, in line with where the muscle can produce the most force and thus grow most, is one of the benefits of having a good machine. Aside from this, certain anatomies might favor machine training, such as myself, who tends to good morning my squats, and instead I started using hack squats. We're moving on to machines. Okay. First benefit, stability. Most machines are more stable than their free weight counterparts. Some, of course, there are exceptions to this rule, like the cable options, or like the functional trainer options, but for the most part, machines have a fixed path that allow you to push harder and closer to failure. Free weights have the issue of other muscles taking over once you're near failure, whilst with machines, the prime mover will be the one to fail most of the time unless their form is really out of whack. 2, as previously mentioned, different resistance curves. With free weight movements, if you're in the same position, you probably can't change the resistance curve. Such as with a bench press, it will always be lengthened to mid-bias, which is already very good, don't get me wrong, but with machines, you can diversify your training. I know, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Diversity, exercise, inclusion. You can have a machine training a different joint angle, or let's say you could let's say you have a shortened, biased, or like squeeze row that's hardest in the squeeze position for your free weight option, and maybe you can have a machine that allows you to hit that lengthened position harder. And obviously, other than diversifying your training with different resistance profiles, which can reduce overuse injuries and burnout, as well as offering potential, it can offer potential superior resistance curves compared to free weight movements, such as the case with free weight rows versus lengthened bias machine rows, as I previously stated. But of course, let's continue. Number 3, stimulus to fatigue. You've probably heard this a ton, but it's basically the ratio of stimulus, which is how much input is the exercise giving to your body to stimulate growth, compared to fatigue, how much negative byproduct, fatigue, are you receiving from the exercise. Machines, as we have established, are mostly stable, and the benefit of not having to exert your energy and stabilizing is that you get to put all your energy into all your mental drive into pushing the weight. And number 4, low barrier of entry. With free weights, some movements are very technical, meaning you have to give time learning the technique. However, machines have the advantage of having a fixed path, making them beginner friendly. And sometimes I definitely don't think that my mom or my grandma, if they were ever to pick up a resistance training program, would likely care about squat, bench, and deadlift, because they do not care about that. They probably just want to get stronger. And another thing is, especially with calisthenics, it requires that you have a base of relative strength, meaning that if you do not have a base of relative strength, even though calisthenics is easily modifiable, it's going to be very difficult for you to do the bread and butter options like push-ups or pull-ups. So they have with barbell bench, you have to be able to bench 45 or 30 pounds, which some people can't even do. Now let's get on to the cons. Exclusivity. Machines are expensive, and chances are the machines at your gym might not be the best, as previously stated. They can be good enough, however, there are some glaring issues such as previously mentioned, weight capacity limits. The next flaw is varying quality. So you might have an amazing piece from Atlantis, like you may have the Prime, something like that. You may have like the Prime, the Prime. I'm stumbling over my words. Prime, extreme row on one piece in one gym, and then the Alibaba Temu row that only can support 50 pounds. So as previously mentioned, they can have glaring issues that will force you, the machines will have glaring issues that will force you to drop them in order to make progress. The last flaw, as also previously mentioned, they are not made for everyone. As machines are built for most people, however, they are not built with a certain demographic. They are built with a certain demographic in mind. The seat can only go so high, and the pad can only go so low. And when you're, a 5'6" midget like me, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard. Like when I'm trying to do a lat pull down, it's almost like I'm trying to do a pull up, trying to get the bar down, trying to get the lat pull down bar down. All right. Conclusion: which method should you use? Now that you see all the benefits and flaws of each method, which method should you use? I would say that the debate between whether you should use free weights or machines is a false dichotomy, an unnecessary pitting of one method against another. I know I sound like a fence sitter, but both sides are incorrect. As Dr. Mike said, use whatever method is right for the job. There are instances where free weights will trump machines, such as in capacity to progressive overload, sometimes, and other times machines will trump free weights, such as in the stability aspect. Take, for example, the alternating bicep curl, which not only trains elbow flexion, but also supination, another function of the biceps, which I have never seen on a machine do. Maybe one, but it's definitely rare, but I definitely see that active supination part of the alternating bicep curl never really replicated. What you will use is also dependent on your environment. For example, if you're more likely to use free weights only if you are in a home gym setting, and maybe you might be more prone to using machines if you're in a commercial gym setting. To conclude, machines and free weights are both valid methods of stimulating muscle growth if you can produce sufficient tension with using the implement or exercise you choose.